Welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe, the podcast about the human experience.
Dr. Richard Sander, welcome to the Center of the Universe. Great to have you here.
Glad to be here. This is exciting for me to be here.
We connected through Rodney Ashby. Kevin and Rodney know each other. And then, of course, you and Rodney know each other. And I was fortunate enough to get your number, and we chatted, a couple weeks ago. And you live in East Tennessee, and here you are in Central Virginia.
Yeah, well, I kind of bounce back and forth. So I'd probably spend 75 to 80% of my time in Johnson City, and then probably 20% here. My family's still here, so I kind of bounce back and forth. But the people at ETSU have been great to me, so do a few things there to help out a little bit.
And did you grow up in Eastern Tennessee?
No, I'm from Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Was the OTR a thing when you were a kid?
OTR.
I think it's on the Rhine or over the Rhine. So
over the Rhine, yeah. It wasn't that big a deal. I mean, that was a pretty tough part of town when I was a kid, so not many people went over there, So, that's old Cincinnati over the Rhine.
Yeah, right there on the river.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Ohio that runs through that part
river.
of the world.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't realize Cincinnati is like right across the river from Kentucky.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the suburbs of Cincinnati are northern Kentucky. Covington, Newport, Erlanger, all those are right there. The Greater Cincinnati Airport's in Kentucky. So
right. Right. So did you go through high school in Cincinnati?
I did. I went to high school. I went to high school at a school called McNicholas, which is a Catholic school. It's the only co-ed Catholic school it was at that time in Cincinnati. And then I actually went to Chattanooga undergrad. So I went there on a football scholarship, but I was one of 5 freshman quarterbacks that they recruited when I got there. Wow. I think I was number 5 on the depth chart. So they moved me to defensive back. And then after the season was over, the basketball coach said to me, "I heard you played basketball in high school. You want to come out and practice with us?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So after that season was over, the basketball coach asked me if I wanted to switch my scholarship, and I said, "Yeah." So I played basketball in Chattanooga.
So you went there to play football,
mm-hmm.
and by the winter of your freshman year, you're playing basketball.
Right. Yep. Best thing that ever happened to me. At least I have a little bit of, all my brains, so that's good.
Yeah, well, certainly concussions are a thing in football and less likely in basketball, but basketball can lead to some bad knees and ankles, that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I think that's the one thing in today's game of basketball. These guys are so big and strong and fast, and I mean the amount of power that they can generate is pretty amazing.
Not fathomable when you were a kid, for sure.
No, I mean they're so strong. They work so hard in the weight room, and I mean it's funny when I hired Anthony Grant at VCU. One of the things that I guess we had been there about a week, and AG, he was the best in the world at getting whatever he wanted in the best, making you feel like you really needed to help him. And he came to me and said, "Doc," he said, "one thing, everything's great." He said, "but the one thing we really need is a strength and conditioning coach. I know, money's tight, but, if there's any way you can do it, I think it'll make a difference." I said, "Okay, Anthony." So we hired a strength and conditioning coach, and he came in. I think, that made a big difference for, Coach Grant, because, the way they played at 94 feet both ways. He's kind of I guess he was kind of the first, guy to really build that VCU brand with full court pressure and getting after people. And then Shaka came in and, kind of expanded it. And now, Rhodesy's doing a great job with it, with this group.
Yeah, I think Coach Grant, Havoc started, but we weren't calling it. Nobody was calling it Havoc then. And then I think with Shaka, we started calling it Havoc.
Yep.
Yeah. And Coach Rhodes has certainly kept it going because it works most of the time.
Yeah, it does. So I talked to Mike a couple of days ago. I think he's really excited about this team, that, the defensive pressure that they can really exert. And I think that's what he said. Practices are so intense that sometimes he's got to kind of calm them down, but they really play hard. So I think that's his kind of team. It's
what every coach wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let's go back to your childhood. What was it like growing up in Cincinnati?
Well, I grew up, and I was. It's funny. I laugh about this because my dad was probably he could do anything. I mean, he could fix anything. It didn't matter, electricity, plumbing, carpentry. He could do any cars. He could fix anything. And he would always try to get me and my brother to, kind of help him do stuff and learn how to do it. Well, I had no interest in doing that. All I wanted to do was play ball. And so that's what I did as a kid. I can remember as a little kid, 4, 5, 6 years old, just taking a rubber ball out and throwing it against the side of the house. Well, my brother was 4 years older than me. He'd go to school, so I just do that all day long. I'm sure I drove my mom crazy. But, and I'd play imaginary games with the Reds, being from Cincinnati,
right.
Everybody, the Reds, and, going way back when I was a little kid, the Reds weren't any good, but that's what I remember. And then in the neighborhood we played ball all the time. And then I probably in youth, I probably played the most aggressive youth football program in the country. When I was in the 6th grade, we played in the Cotton Bowl. And so I think our team was 18-0. We allowed 1 touchdown all year, and, we'd win about every game 50, 60 to nothing. And we practiced every day. it was a big deal. So, so growing up, and then I guess when I was in the 8th grade, I went to Catholic school, one called Guardian Angel. I think we won basically the state championship in football, basketball, and baseball. We had a big elementary school. The problem was we were the main feeder school for the high school. And then if you know anything about Cincinnati, GCL, there's a lot of all boys, really strong schools, Elder, St. X, Roger Bacon, LaSalle, Muller. So when it didn't translate into the high school, we were okay, but we didn't dominate like we did when we were in the elementary school.
But you were a pretty good athlete, apparently. If you switch from football to basketball in a Division I school. So what else were you playing? Did you play every sport like we used to?
I played baseball. I played baseball from a little kid on, So, I played baseball in high school, played American Legion. So, I don't know that I was a great athlete. I was pretty good at just about everything, because it was my main focus. That's what I did. I played, and I was always put in a position, in football I played quarterback, and baseball I played shortstop, and basketball I was point guard. So, that's what
Leadership,
I did.
yeah.
Wow.
You're almost the quarterback in every sport.
Yeah. I guess, the coaches, I guess I didn't have enough talent to really be good. So, I was just kind of one of those guys that had to figure it out and how to play and how to win. I wasn't a great runner. But, I could do a few other things, but that never was my strong suit. I wasn't a great runner. As a quarterback, I was a pretty good thrower, and could read a game. So it goes back. It's funny because when I was in high school, I know they never do this now, but I called all the plays. And
that is unusual.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but times changed, and I had a great experience playing, and it was a big part of my life. So I've been very fortunate. My whole career has been in sports, and when I got out of college, I went in the Army for 2 years. I was commissioned as 2nd lieutenant, so I went in, and I was a Signal Corps officer. Got orders to go to Vietnam, but I was playing basketball on the post team and had some issues with my elbow, so I had 2 surgeries on my elbow, so I couldn't depart post until all the treatment was done on that. So got out. I really didn't have any aspirations of coaching until I got hurt the second surgery. They basically said you can't play the rest of the year, so they said, okay, will you be the coach of the post team? So I did, and once I started coaching, that kind of got in my blood, and that's what I wanted to do.
So the first time you coached was at an Army post.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that's. I don't think that's typical.
No, I don't think so. But it was good, and then I got out of the Army, and I had a 3-week-old daughter, and didn't have a job. And my college coach from Chattanooga called me and said, "Hey, they've got a teaching coaching position at Howard High School in Chattanooga now." you guys aren't familiar with Howard High School, but Howard High School is an all-black school in the projects in Chattanooga. So if you ever saw the movie or the TV show The White Shadow, I was the original White Shadow. I was the only white teacher in the whole school, and there were no white students. So coached basketball. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That sounds amazing, actually.
Yeah, it was great experience. A lot of great kids, a lot of great people I met there, and then the next year I had a chance to go back to Chattanooga, University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, and coach for a year. Did that, and then got a job teaching and coaching at Anderson High School in Cincinnati. So. One of the biggest high schools in the city. So I think I was 25, and
it's a pretty big job for a 25-year-old.
Yeah, it was. Fortunately, I had a lot of lucky things happen to me in my life. But fortunately, my high school coach was the assistant superintendent of schools for that school district, and he had moved on to that position, and so he hired me to be the coach and teacher. So and did that for 10 years. During that time, I got my master's and I got my doctorate from the University of Cincinnati while I was teaching and coaching. And then I had an opportunity to go to Memphis State to help build an athletic fundraising program for Memphis. That was great. I was there about 4.5 years. We went to the Final Four in '85. That was pretty cool. I traveled with the football and basketball teams, did radio with them. And then in '86, I got the job here at VCU, and was here for 21 years, whatever it was, and really had a chance to see VCU grow into what it is today. When I got there in '86, it was not what it is today, no question.
Let's go back to high school. Was there a fourth sport you could play, or really you just had one sport per season?
Yeah, pretty much just one sport. I couldn't have done any of the other ones either. I guess some people could probably run, do track, or something like that. I couldn't have done that. So those were probably the three sports I could play.
Which did you enjoy the most in high school?
Oh boy. I kind of just enjoyed whatever season it was. It's kind of funny. I think I was perceived always as a better football player and baseball player, and kind of a piece of the puzzle for basketball. I don't think I was ever perceived as in high school. I started and probably averaged 16 points a game, but I had some other guys on our team that were really who probably were better than me, so
16 points a game for a point guard is pretty good, especially back then. The offenses were a lot more conservative, I imagine.
Yeah. It was okay. We had a good team. We did pretty well. It's kind of funny because when I was at Chattanooga, we played Xavier. I think it was my junior year. Yeah, my junior year, and the kid who I grew up playing baseball. Everything with all through from first grade on up. He played for X. He played for Xavier, and I think I got 33, and his name was Tim O'Connell, and Tim got 27 for Xavier.
Wow!
And so the newspapers that day were wondering how we ever lost the game with two guys that could score like that. The problem was, I think probably guys who were guarding were probably doing about the same thing, So, but yeah, that was kind of a neat experience.
That's really neat. You played point guard at Chattanooga?
I did.
Okay. That's really cool. All right, so I have to go back. I'm an Army vet.
Okay.
And why did you go into the Army after college?
Well, I graduated in 1968, and so that was at the very, pinnacle of Vietnam. So my dad just really pushed me to take ROTC because to go in as an officer, and so I listened to what he said, so I did. I got out. I graduated in 68 and went in the Army in August of 68. So from 68 to 70, that was a pretty, Vietnam was going on pretty strong at that point, and so we got orders. And I think we had gotten married. We got married December 28th, and I think the next week I got orders to go to Vietnam. Now, I didn't go because the surgery's on my arm, but that was a very difficult time, and you look back and being in a soldier at that time, being in the Army or the military at that time, you weren't exact. Today, you know, people say, we thank you for your service.
Right.
They didn't say that then, I can tell you.
They said a lot of other things.
Yeah, they did, you know. So that was a pretty tough time. But, you know, we persevered, got through there, and, you know, it was, I mean, I learned a lot from being in the service. It was a wonderful experience for me.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about VCU. You are best known to Kevin and me as the VCU athletic director. Before you started talking to VCU about potentially working there, did you know anything about the school?
Nothing. Although I say nothing. I didn't know very much about it. But our basketball coach at Memphis was a guy named Dana Kirk. And Dana had been the coach at VCU. Yeah. And so he talked to me, told me a little bit about it, you know, but that's about all I knew about it. Really didn't know too much. I knew it was in Richmond. I knew they had some success with, you know, with Calvin Duncan and Orlando Lamb and those guys, I think, you know, a couple years. And I think actually when I was at Memphis, we actually played VCU. They came over, and it was a good game. I think Memphis, we beat them, but, you know, we were the number 3 or 4 team in the country, so, or 2 maybe. I don't know what we were. But
Keith Lee, part of those teams?
Keith Lee, William Bedford, Andre Turner, Doom Haynes, Vincent Askew. Yeah.
Really, really good players. Yeah. So what was the process like to interview and be selected for the AD role?
Well, you know, I just applied, you know. I just applied for the job, and somehow or another, I guess probably what helped me more than anything was that Memphis State was so good in basketball, and VCU aspired to, you know, have a national brand as a basketball program. And then, you know, with J.D. Barnett, they had some pretty nice success. So I think that probably helped me, got me in the door. And then, you know, President Ackle, Ed Ackle was president of VCU at that time, and we just kind of connected. And I think, you know, I had the type of personality and drive and vision that, you know, Dr. Ackle was looking for. And it was it's amazing. VCU was so under-resourced at the time when I got the job. I mean, literally, they had no resources. They had no facilities. They had very little going for them, except, you know, they had a pretty good basketball team a couple years before I got here. When I got here, the program wasn't particularly good. I say that. The first year, it wasn't great. The second year, I think maybe we had Phil Stinney and Chris Cheeks and Vince Wilson, John Thompson. So that team was pretty good. But then those guys kind of finished, and, you know, things started to slide a little bit. That's when we had a player die in practice.
Oh, gosh.
A young man named Michael Brown. So I'll never forget, it was New Year's Day, and got a call that one of the players was in the hospital. He had passed out at practice. So I rushed down to MCV, and he was dead, dropped dead from, you know, cardiac arrhythmia. And so, you know, Mike Pulio was the coach at that time, and, you know, Mike, I think it really bothered him. It was a tough situation, so Mike kind of stepped down. He just wanted to get out of coaching, and that's when I hired Sonny. So I thought we needed Coach Polio was kind of a yeller screamer, kind of a guy that, I don't think people really, you know, connected to very, very well. And I thought we needed somebody that people could really connect with and would enjoy, and had some personality and stuff. And Sonny had been at Auburn, and I think he just kind of got tired of, you know, the football issues at Auburn. And so when I talked to him, it kind of came down. This is kind of funny. I take credit for a couple people's careers. So the job actually came down between Sonny and Bob Huggins. And so, and I like Hugs a lot. I mean, really, really good guy, you know, and but, you know, really intense, you know, very, very intense guy. And I thought after Polio, you know, the people didn't really connect with Coach Polio very well. I just didn't know if it made any sense to bring in another really intense yeller, screamer, you know, guy. So Sonny was not like that. Sonny was a personality. Everybody liked Guy. So that's what we did, you know. So that was every time I see Huggins, I tell him, hey, give me part of your paycheck now. You're making $1 zillion, I kind of, because I think Hugs got like the Cincinnati job like a month later, so
right
good for him, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it probably would have worked out for
sure.
Hugs either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so VCU was known for basketball and not known for much else athletically.
Right.
What other programs were you really focused on or interested in developing?
Well, when I got here, VCU baseball was like a circus because they didn't have a facility to play in. They literally would practice. They were like troubadours. They just kind of wandered around and practiced at different high schools and stuff like that. So when I got here, one of the first things I did is, I negotiated an agreement with Bruce Baldwin, who was the general manager of the Richmond Braves, to let us play and practice at the Diamond. Well, that was huge for us, you know what I mean? So now, it was pretty cool. So then Coach Guzzo could recruit some players. So I think at that point, they had never had a winning season. I think in 2 years, we won the conference, went to the NCAA tournament. And then I think for, the next 16, 17 years, we were the number 2 ranked non-Sun Belt school in the country. Nebraska was number 1, and we won more games and went further in the NCAA than anybody but Nebraska. So baseball really got going good with, Coach Guzzo and then Coach Keys. They really did great job. I think 3 times while I was there, we were within 1 game going to the College World Series. So that was pretty cool. And then of course, we made a strategic decision to really get good in tennis. So hired Paul Costin, and Paul came in and did an incredible job. And I think he went the NCAA championship, maybe 18, 20 straight. Every year I think Paul was here, we went the NCAA championship, and he just got that thing rolling. And I think in 2000 we played Stanford for the national championship.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was, and had a great team. Paul was a tremendous coach and so well respected, and recruited some great players, to come in here, Daniel Anderson and Frederick Eliason and, Boris Kojo and Jonas Emblad. We had a lot of good players. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, so back to baseball, recruiting's a little different today than it was, say, in the late 80s, early 90s, but it's got to be hard to recruit a baseball player when you didn't have a field to show it.
Although, we're playing at AAA stadium, so that kind of gave them a little bit of credibility, and those guys were really good at figuring it out. We always had a combination. We were getting a lot of the best local high school kids, and then he would supplement it with, some players that were, from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. I mean, like Jerry DiPoto came down here. He was a great pitcher for us, and of course went on to be, what is he now, general manager of, one of the, I think the Angels, the Los Angeles Angels, and then some other guys, and so they figured out how to play at the Diamond. So we pitched really good. We played kind of small ball. Guys could run. We had good players local. Robbie Grimes was here. Todd Campbell. So we had we were getting the best local players. Michael Bell, and then we got just enough guys from outside that could supplement that. So and then we had some. We had the Marshalls that pitched. Sean was certainly a great pitcher for us, and Clay Meredith, and just really figured out how to win. Yeah,
a lot of guys go to the big leagues.
Yeah, we did. Mm-hmm.
Which, if you had told me that back in 1985, I would say you're crazy.
Yeah.
There's no way we're VCU sending that many kids to
the
bigs.
I mean, with Inge, of course, Brandon Inge was maybe the best player that's ever been at VCU. Inge could. I mean, he was a tremendous shortstop, and then he was, Keys would just bring him in, if he needed to get an out any time, he just brought him in from shortstop, pitch to one batter, and get him out, and then he'd go back play shortstop again, and so that, those were really good teams. Yeah, Jason Du Bois was, played in the majors, Sean Marshall, Clay Meredith, Inge, bunch of other guys, Scott Sizemore. Harold Mazinga. So a lot of guys made it.
A lot of those guys are still around this area. Sizemore, McQueen, Clay was on the podcast.
Yeah, Clay lives a couple miles from here.
Yeah. Was football ever a serious consideration while you were there?
No.
No? Why not?
Well, President Troney had no interest in football, just to be perfectly honest. I just don't think that, facilities have always been such a big challenge for VCU, such an inner city, landlocked institution, just finding space. I mean, we have enough hard time finding, space for soccer and, some of the other sports. And I just don't think we ever wanted to do it. And we just said, okay, we can invest money in different things, and we'd much rather invest money in basketball and try to become a national brand in basketball than to, dilute that and invest some of that money in football. And, I can tell you, FCS football, it's nice, you know what I mean, but you're never going to build a national brand. Right. You're never going to, it's always going to be a major cost center. You're never going to make any money. You're going to lose, you're going to spend a lot of money. So I think for us, we just felt that if we could take that money and invest in basketball and the other sports, we got pretty good in just about everything when I was there. Soccer, I think 5 straight years we were national seed in men's soccer or women's soccer program, which we started. I think we were going to the NCAA almost every year. Of course, both tennises, women's tennis made it to the semifinals, men's tennis made it to the finals, baseball, like I said, 3 times within one game of going to the College World Series. Just about everything, was pretty good. And so I think we were able to use our resources to invest in those programs and have, a high level of success rather than dilute everything and throw a lot of resources at a football program that, I'm not sure with all the established programs that are out there, I'm not sure VCU would have been a attractive place for, football.
Yeah, it's hard to break into FCS when you haven't had a program ever. ODU made a different decision 10, 11 years ago, and their program is okay.
I can tell you their budget's about $48 million, and I don't know what VCU's is, but it's probably maybe $25 million or something like that, which is a lot for a non-football playing school. But it's half, and those programs are very expensive. I mean, you can say what you want; they're very, very expensive. You can't generate enough money to pay for your football program unless you're a Power 5 guy.
A perennial top 20 team.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like JMU. I mean, JMU's budget is bigger than Old Dominion's, and so figure that one out there, an FCS program, and Old Dominion's an FBS program. So
they built quite a program down there.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money to build it. Good for them. That's what they wanted to invest in. It's been good for them.
Yeah. What was your relationship like with the community, with Richmond generally?
Oh, good, I think.
Because you were here 20 years. There must have been something about Richmond that made you stay so long.
Yeah, I love Richmond. I think, it was an opportunity to come here and do something. I mean, like I said, when I got here, there were some pretty major challenges facility-wise, budget-wise, building a tradition. I mean, VCU, I think its history, I forget what year it was, 76, 77, when it actually, came into being, a merger between Richmond Professional Institute and Medical College of Virginia. And so, there was no tradition, there were no resources. There really wasn't. It was an opportunity to really build something. And, I think VCU kind of became what we wanted to become, was kind of the athletic program for Central Virginia. Of course, U of R, Chuck Boone, who was the AD there, we're good friends. But they're completely different than us, So I thought we could appeal to a lot more wider segment of the population. I think that's where we are. I think that's where VCU is now. I mean, I think all you got to do is look at the attendance at the basketball games, and I think tells you, it's people care about VCU and VCU basketball.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people forget that VCU was MCV plus RPI,
right?
And you become the AD 9 years after that merger. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the attraction for you over time, especially I imagine, is you got to build something special.
Yeah, I mean that was really the thing, and I, to be honest, I had chances to leave, at different jobs, different opportunities, and kind of turned them down because it seemed like there was always something that was important that was going on, that we were making a big big move forward, whether it was building the Siegel Center or changing conferences or, a lot of different things, It just seemed like, that's where I wanted to be. That was my, passion. It was my vision to build what we did. And so I feel pretty good about it, yeah.
And I imagine most of the games you went to and watched in person, as many as you could, the home games.
Yeah, I mean, I went to all the home games, of course, tried to get to some of the away games. It's tough when you're running an athletic program to be on the road too much. And so, but yeah, I think I probably saw every home game over 20 years, unless I was at the NCAA convention. I think that was probably the only time I'd miss a game. But yeah, I saw a lot of games, saw a lot of great games, some really cool stuff going on, some interesting things that happened that, you probably wouldn't ever think would happen, but they did. I remember one year early on when I was here, we were playing Jacksonville at the Coliseum, and the game was going to be on regional cable. At that time, the regional cable was Home Team Sports, and the folks down at the Coliseum, they wanted to do this. They wanted to really show the Coliseum in a very positive manner. So they got out and they waxed the floor. The only problem was they used the wrong wax, and nobody could stand up on the floor. So we had the game was like, it was unbelievable. People couldn't stand up, so we had to cancel the game.
It's really hard to play a basketball game when you can't get your footing. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a waxed out game. We may be the only school in the country that had a waxed out game. But yeah, that was funny, and we used to play at the old Coliseum, and they'd have ice under the floors.
Oh yeah.
Old Sonny was always complaining about his feet being so cold. I told him, "You're just too old, Sonny. It's about your circulation. It's not about the ice on the floor."
Yeah. Well, the Coliseum had ice because they had a bunch of semi-pro hockey teams coming through here.
The Rifles,
like
and the Robins, and
the Renegades.
The Renegades.
They all had to start with R. Apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. That's funny. So Sonny didn't like the ice underneath the basketball floor.
Nope.
Tell us about some of your fondest memories as it relates to athletic events, different games.
Yeah. Well, I guess one of my all-time favorite things about VCU athletics was, I forget what year it was, 90 or 91. Our baseball team had a great year. We were in the Metro Conference, and the tournament was in Louisville. We go up to play up there, and we lose the first two games. We get sent home, so the guys come home, and we're sitting in the office like a day and a half later, and we get this call from, I think it was Texas, Arlington or somebody, and they say, "Hey, we need your roster, your baseball roster." We go, "What do you need our baseball roster for?" Say, "Well, we're in the same regional with you guys. We want," and we're going, "What?" All our guys had left and gone back because we didn't think we were going to get in. Well, we get in the NCAA tournament. We had a couple players. We had a pitcher named Melvin Hornsby who we never found. He was up in the mountains of West Virginia fishing, so we never got a hold of him. But guys are flying into Austin, Texas, from Myrtle Beach and all over the place. So we go down there, and one of the neatest things that would ever happen is we played Texas the first game. We were the 6th seed, and that was when there was a 6-team regional,
University of Texas.
University of Texas down in Austin. And so we go down there, and, it's a great environment. It's a great venue. They got, 8,000-9,000 people, and, they're yelling and screaming, and it's really cool. They have one of their former players. He's a country singer, and their big deal is the Eyes of Texas, and they get up there and they're doing, and this guy sings the Eyes of Texas, and it's really emotional, it's really, really emotional, and they're yelling and screaming, hooking horns and everything. I'll never forget the first pitch of the game. Robbie Grimes, who batted first for us, he hits a line drive off the left field wall for a double, and you could have heard a pin drop in the place.
Like, what?
Yeah, hey, whoop, and then so we wind up losing to Texas 2-0, and then but it's double elimination. So we come back, and I forget who we played. I don't want to get this wrong, but it's something like we played Louisiana Lafayette the next game. We beat them. Then we played Creighton, who was real good, and we beat them. And then we played Long Beach State with Giambi. We beat them. And now we come back, and Texas had gone through the winner's bracket. So we're the winner of the loser's bracket. They're the winners of the winner's bracket. And we play Texas, and, and then we've got to beat them twice. And so we play them like at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. We beat them. We beat them like 4-2. I'll never forget. They had the player of the year, a guy named Brooks Kieschneck, who was player of the year. He was a pitcher hitter. And so they bring him in to close the game. And I think somebody, I mean, it's Jamie Brewington or somebody hits a line drive down the right field line with the bases loaded. And we wind up winning like 4-2 or something like that. Well, now we got to play them again. And if we beat them, we go to the College World Series, and we got no pitching left, none. I mean, by this time, and we had a lot of these freshmen that were pitching. Two local guys, a guy named Tommy Knuckles, who's a local guy, I think, went to Clover Hill, and another guy named Mike Ketterman, who pitched for another one of the schools on the Mount Monacan, or one of them, both freshmen. They pitched great down there. So we had one really good pitcher, a guy named Matt Williams, who was really good. Matty pitched the first game. We lose 2-0 to Texas, and he comes back, and he's pitching on 2 days rest. And we're winning in the sixth inning, we're winning I don't know, 4-2 or something. They got the bases loaded and 1 out. And guy hits a ground ball kind of between shortstop and second base, and Todd Campbell was our shortstop, and he had an error in 35 games or something like that. It's a perfect double play ball, and the ball kind of hits the tip of his glove, goes out in the right center, all 3 runs score, and we get beat 10-6. But it was just to see the best part about that was the fans. The Texas fans gave our kids a standing ovation.
That's great.
Because they played so hard, and they loved us because we had beat Long Beach State, and Long Beach and Texas had a kind of a very heated rivalry. They didn't like each other at all. I think the year before, Long Beach had knocked Texas out of the College World Series or something. So yeah, that was one of the really, really great moments, I think. From basketball, I think one of the neat things that, was really cool is, in Anthony's first year here when we go to the NCAA tournament. And I had gone to practice with AG and the team the day before. We were playing up in Buffalo. And they're going through the practice. At the end of practice, Anthony tells them how the game's going to go. He said, well, we're going to go out there, it's going to be, it's going to be great. We're going to play hard and everything. And, Duke's a really good team. And he said, we'll hang in there. He said, but don't be surprised, if you get down 10 or 12 in the second half. He said, it's going to be okay. He said, they're going to get tired. Our pressure will eventually wear on them. They'll start missing free throws. And at the end, if we can make a couple plays at the end, we're going to win the game. And, sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Maynard hits a little 12, 15-footer, at the end. But, it was just unbelievable. You just go, wow, he told him exactly what was going to happen, and that's exactly what happened.
I think besides the Final Four year that happened in 2011, that probably was the biggest game VCU had ever been in.
Yeah, I think so. It was so cool, national attention. And and I mean that was amazing because I can't think of the kid's name. We had a decent sized center who wasn't that big, but had broken his nose in the game before, and he couldn't really play. I mean, we were down to hardly any players at all. We had no inside game. So yeah, it was a heck of a game. Of course, we had Maynard and B.A. Walker and Jesse Pellarosa. Those guys kind of carried that team.
Did you get to go to the Louisville game with Sweet Chuck?
I was not. I was not there. I was going to the NCAA convention, and I was on a plane. And when I landed, I think it was the convention was in Dallas, and I think when I landed, I got to TV and saw the end of it. You know what I mean? With Rodney going off, and of course Kendrick had a pretty good game too. So I mean that was that. But I mean I think Kendrick got 32, and Rodney got like 24 and 12 or 13 or something like that, playing against all those McDonald's All-Americans. That was pretty cool.
Well, especially considering that Rodney played 15 minutes of high school basketball.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he was a walk-on, just came in, and worked hard, and Rodney. I'll never forget. We were playing Long Beach State, and I think this was Rodney's maybe sophomore, junior year when he wasn't playing much, and Long Beach State was coached by Seth Greenberg, and so they come in and they were supposed to be pretty good, and we go out there and we just we just throttle them. We beat them. I mean, Kendrick's dunking on people right and left. Kenny Harris is, making shots. Tyrone McCoy, Sharon Mills. I mean, that was a good team. So at the end of the game, kind of mop-up time, Rodney goes to try to dunk one. Of course, he wasn't. Nobody ever confused him for Kendrick. So he goes to dunk it and kind of misses it, kind of grabs the rim and catches it's coming off and puts it back in. And I'll never forget, I've never seen anybody go crazy like Seth Greenberg went crazy on that one. So, and the funny thing is, then we beat him like on a Saturday, and we throttled them, beat them by, I don't know, a bunch. And then Monday night they play Kansas, number one team in the country, out at Allen Fieldhouse, and beat them by 10. Yeah,
I remember that.
So that was those were fun. Yeah.
Yeah, the Maynard game would have to be in your top 5, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was. And then there were some other games. In what year was it? Maybe it was probably the year after Kendrick and those guys were gone, when Bernard Hopkins, does anybody remember Bernard? Yeah. He was a great player. We are going to play, we're supposed to play Xavier. It was like they were supposed to come here to Richmond. It was the back end of a 2-game series. We had played them in Cincinnati the year before. And so I think this is the year. I don't know what year it was. We're supposed to play Xavier, and a guy named Jeff Fogelson's the AD at Xavier. He calls me and says, "Hey Dick, we need a favor. We have an opportunity to play Notre Dame on national TV, in Chicago, on CBS." He said, "Can you please let us out of the game? We'll come next year, but this is really big for us." And he said, "We'll pay you guys whatever cost you have, and make it worth your while." And so I go, okay, yeah, if you got a great opportunity like that, you want to help somebody out. So I say, okay. So now this was like September 10th or 12th. I mean, it was really late for a game. So I'm thinking, okay, what can we do? Oh, I got a good idea. We'll play Virginia Union. So call over there, and we call.
Right across the highway.
Yeah, hey, right across the road. And, hey, we'll play a game. Because, Union had always wanted to play, you know what I mean? And so we say, okay, we'll play Virginia Union. And we'll sell out. This will be great, fill the Coliseum. We'll make a bunch of money.
What year was this?
Oh, boy, I don't know. That's a good question, what year it was.
Late 80s.
Sonny was the coach. It must have been maybe 93, 94, something like that. All I know is, with like 6 minutes to go in the game, we're losing by about 8. I'm thinking, maybe this wasn't such a good idea at all. But then, and they had Ben Wallace, so whatever year that would have been.
That team was really good.
Yeah, so they were really good. And so we wind up, Ben was not a great free throw shooter. He misses some free throws down the stretch. We wind up winning by 4 or 6 or something like that.
Thank goodness, because they were Division II.
Yeah, they were Division II, and say, okay, PC, okay, well, we did the right thing. We gave Virginia Union a chance to play us, now.
And we will not do that again anytime soon.
Although in years, once we got in the Siegel Center, we actually did play Union, an exhibition game, and almost every year, and we'd sell it out. It was a big deal for us. It was a big deal for them. It didn't mean anything, you know what I mean? And I think a couple of years, I think maybe one of Jeff's years we actually lost to him, and then wound up, maybe the year we went to the NCAA with Jeff, so and I think everybody realized, Union could beat a lot of people.
Yes. So what is it about Richmond College basketball? Because U of R's had good teams in the past. VCU's had a really strong program for a long time, your entire tenure plus some time after and before. And then VUU has been a Division II stalwart. What do you think it is about Richmond and basketball?
It's a good question. I think there's some good high school basketball here, and so, there's been some great players who have come out of here, Jason Williford and Kendrick and, Thomas Meredith and, just a lot of good players from around here, some guys from Charlottesville, Phil Stinney. I think people just have kind of, I think one thing is, VCU, because for years just, because they didn't play football, I think maybe that's part of it too. You
Right.
know, there's no, it's a pretty big city not to have an FBS program here. Some people go to Charlottesville, some people go to Tech, but, there's not. So basketball has kind of become the focus, and I think the rivalries between U of R and VCU go back, and so I think people really enjoy it. Plus the high schools are good. I think they're well coached, and the AAU programs. Tony Squires had a really good AAU program here, so I think it's just kind of built, and then I think as we got pretty good, as U of R got pretty good, I think it just kind of continued to build and build and build. The rivalries with Old Dominion, and I think if you talk to, it'd be interesting if you did a survey of VCU fans who they hate the most, U of R fans or Old Dominion fans.
Ooh, that'd be a tough one.
It would be. I'm not sure who would win that one, but there's no love lost between going either way on that. Although U of R, I think the games are rivalry, but I don't think there's any, I think
animosity.
That's what it is. I don't think so. Like I say, the universities are so different. Where VCU and ODU are pretty similar.
Right.
So
I think people forget how close we were to having a VCU Richmond basketball game to see who goes to the Final Four. That close, and it was spinning. Don't get me wrong, VCU beating Kansas is probably one of the highlights of my VCU fandom.
That's the biggest game in VCU history, any sport.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh yeah, it really was.
Still, this close, Richmond against VCU, and the city was going crazy.
Oh yeah. That was quite a time. A time. Yeah. Who would ever figure the odds against that are pretty small. But,
yeah, crazy. By the way, I think when people think of Richmond, they know the history of sports in Richmond. It's a basketball town.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
Yep.
Cool. Proudest moment, your tenure at VCU?
My proudest moment. That's a good question. Proudest moment. I think probably, the day we opened the Siegel Center. I think the Siegel Center was transformational for the university, for the whole VCU constituent base. I think it was the one thing that really gave them pride in the institution. I think it gave us the opportunity to do so many things besides just play basketball, to reach out to the community. We were able to negotiate the deal with the Virginia High School League, where all the state tournaments, the state finals basketball would come here, the cheerleading would come here. I think volleyball would come here. So it gave us an opportunity to really not only play in a really exciting, tight venue that we could recruit to, but I think it did so much for the community and for the brand, the whole VCU brand and the image of VCU. So I think when we opened that building, because there were so many challenges that we had to overcome to get to that point, it was pretty amazing. So to open that building, because I knew it just wasn't a one-time deal, I knew it was transformational over however long, what it is today. I mean, I guess the building's it's over 20 years old, isn't it? So,
yeah, wow.
Wow. But yeah, I think that was probably it. And then, the coolest thing is, we played Louisville that opening game, and I don't know, we were down 22 or 24 at half and came back and won, beating Denny Crum and, those guys. So that was, I think that was probably maybe it, opening the building and, but knowing how that was going to really change the whole image, the whole brand of VCU. I think, like I said, I think it was transformational, just even from the standpoint of changing the campus, because where we built it and, the way things had grown in between, kind of the periphery of the campus and where the Siegel Center was. So, yeah, and like I said, there were a lot of problems and challenges that we overcame that people never even knew about. So, yeah, that was probably my proudest moment.
Overcoming those challenges made it even more worthwhile, I imagine.
It did.
But certainly connecting with the community in a deep way that maybe you guys had never achieved before the Siegel Center.
Yeah, I think there's no question we'd have those graduations from, schools from Chesterfield County and Henrico County. I mean, people would say, well, I've never been on VCU's campus, you know what I mean? So I think it just opened so many doors and opportunities. We could bring, things in. We brought in robotics competitions and different things where, people would never have come to VCU. And I think and I think the other thing, it really gave us the constituent base of VCU, a real sense of pride. It was something that was their own, that was really nice. It was really well done. And I think that gave them a really good feeling about that. Because, I mean, when I got here, I'll just be honest, I always thought that a lot of the VCU folks kind of had a very, for lack of a better term, limited self-image. You know what I mean? They kind of felt, like second-class citizens compared to UVA or William & Mary or U of R or even Tech, So I think this was something that the people could really kind of stick their chest out and say, man, we got something really good here. And unfortunately, we were able to, build that into a terrific home court advantage. And, I think it's as good a home court advantage as anywhere in the country.
Well, the irony about the second-class citizen, MCV was considered, even back in the 70s, to be a fantastic medical school, and it maintains that reputation today. It actually goes by VCU now, which means the VCU brand is even stronger. But RPI was a fantastic art school.
Right.
And so, but it's a weird merger of an art school and a medical school.
Right.
But now you have VCU, which is a full-fledged, you can learn anything at VCU, and the brand is powerful these days.
It is. And, I mean, there was a lot of work done to build that brand and the relationship, because when I first got here to VCU, there wasn't a good connection or a good feeling between MCV and the academic campus. MCV really fought the name, the brand of Virginia Commonwealth University. So they really wanted to be identified as, the Medical College of Virginia until, and then, a couple things happened. If you remember, one of the things that happened, I'll tell you, if you want to listen, how two things that happened that kind of really forced this, the university to just kind of make sure that the Medical College of Virginia was going to now become, the MCV campus of Virginia Commonwealth University, because MCV refused to even have Virginia Commonwealth University on their diplomas.
Even though legally they were part of.
They were, yeah. So, but if you remember, there was a really bad wreck out at Richmond International Raceway, and they airlifted, I forget which driver it was, the MCV, and all the local news media were here, and they, I think it was CNN's here, and they came on and would say, the Medical College of Virginia, the Medical College of the University of Virginia. And that drove Tronny absolutely crazy.
It would have driven me crazy.
And then if you remember the I-95 shooter guy that was shooting people.
The sniper, the DC
sniper, whatever he was. Well, same thing happened to them. They shot somebody, brought him to MCV, and the exact same thing happened. And Tronny just said, enough. This is going to be Virginia Commonwealth University. You know what I mean? We're going to downplay the MCV bit of it, And so, those are two things.
You can only be called University of Virginia twice,
right,
before you have to make a move.
Right, I think that's right. So that kind of was the impetus to force that issue.
So what did you do after VCU?
Not much. I'd started a graduate program, in sports leadership, so it was kind of neat. We started, completely entrepreneurial. So it was... it was VCU's. VCU didn't give us any money. We ran the program. I think we got 90% of the tuition revenue, and the university got 10%. But we did everything. We funded everything. We funded faculty. We did everything. So I did that for 2 or 3 years. I'd started that, and it was kind of cool. We'd take the class to Europe every year, and a lot of people now, I think we called it the VCU Sports Center, but then I think after I retired, they changed it to, what do they call it? The Center for Sports Leadership, I think they call it. And it's very successful. It's one of the top graduate programs in in sports management, sports leadership. So I did that for 2 or 3 years, and I retired, just kind of hanging out, doing a little consulting. I'd gone out to Gonzaga, did a little bit of stuff for them, Western Kentucky, George Mason, some other places, and East Tennessee State had a new president, and he had been there about 6 or 7 months, and somebody called me and said, hey, Brian Nolan, the president of East Tennessee State University, would like for you to come up here and look at their program, because they wanted to build a basketball brand, And so I said, okay. So I went up there a couple times, and the guy who was the AD, he was getting ready to retire. So President Nolan, he said, hey, Dave's getting ready to retire. It's time for him to leave. Can you help me for a couple months, on an interim basis?
And you're retired, effectively.
And I'm retired. Yeah, I'd been retired for a while. This was 2013, so I'd been retired for maybe 3 years. And so I talked to my wife. She said, yeah, you'll enjoy doing it. So literally I got there, and President Nolan, on the third day I was there, he said, hey, I've decided I'm going to restart football. They had dropped football there in 2003. Can you help me restart football? So when I said, yeah, I knew that wasn't a 2-month deal. So I stayed.
No way.
Yeah, so I stayed there for 5 years. We restarted football, changed conferences, built an on-campus stadium, moved our basketball facility. We moved from an on-campus facility to a city facility. Invested about $20 million in that. We built a football stadium for about $50 million. We changed conferences. So that was cool. And then I'd started a doctoral program in what we call Global Sports Leadership at ETSU. So that's kind of what I did and been doing here, And then back at VCU, when Jeff was our coach, I'd hired Jeff, when he was 27. And he was great. I love Jeff. But, I thought, well, I hired him at 27. We'll have him for a long time. Well, the first year he did pretty good. And then I think both Miami and Auburn reached out to him to interview for their jobs. I'm going, oh, my goodness, what am I going to do? Who am I going to get if Jeff leaves? So I started this program called Villa 7. You may have heard of it. Mm-hmm. And so it was an attempt to, knowing that I was a mid-major athletic director, that probably our next coach would be somebody who was one of the top assistant coaches in the country at the Power 5. Well, it wasn't Power 5 then, but
right.
Whatever,
effectively Power 5,
BCS, whatever they were called at that time. And so I said, how am I going to do this? So what I did is I figured out I needed to figure out a way to connect with those folks, So I put together a group of maybe 15 to 20 mid-major ADs like myself, and we kind of had this seminar. We got together and talked about issues, our issues, ways to help one another out. And I said, why don't we do this somewhere where these coaches are going to be, and we'll make a connection. So knowing the coaches, every year we'd go to Las Vegas in July for those big recruiting weeks, where every good player in the country is out there. So I said, why don't we have this seminar, this get-together of these ADs? We'll get together out there, and then I'll host a reception for these top 30 coaches, and that's what we'll do. We'll get these ADs. So we probably had 15 ADs. We probably had 30 of those coaches come. And so we had like a 2-hour deal, and they kind of interacted and engaged. And during that time, I forget, a couple of them said to me, hey, Doc, that was really great. Do you think, we could do something maybe with some programming and stuff? So the next year I think we actually went to Charlotte and had like 20 coaches and 15 ADs and had panels. We had Morgan Wooten there. We had Bob Bodine. We had 5 or 6 ADs. It was pretty cool. So that's kind of how it started. So did that for quite a while. Then when I retired, it kind of fell apart. And then maybe 4 years ago, one of the guys in my doctoral program, a guy named Lyle Wolf, who now is an assistant at Texas A&M, said, "Hey, Doc, why don't we restart Villa 7? I'll do all the work. You just tell me what to do." So I said, "Well, that sounds like a pretty good deal, so we'll do it." So we did. We started, and the funny part is Villa 7, somebody had copyrighted the name Villa 7 who had nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? So we had to change to Top Connect, but that's okay. I mean, that's what we're doing now. We've had programs this last year. We probably have had 250 coaches and administrators go through it. So it's pretty cool. We have a strong connection. But yeah, it's been good. It's been really, really good. So that's what I've been doing, just kind of hanging out. And then I do special projects for President Nolan. I stepped down as AD there maybe 2017 or 18. I had to make a change in basketball up there. Hired Steve Forbes, and Forbes, he came in and did a great job for us. I think 2 years ago, I think we were 30-4, and had a really, really strong team. Beat LSU on the road, lost to Kansas by 3 out in Lawrence, and so that team was really good. And that was the team that we had already gone through the Southern Conference Championship. Won that. I think we won that. I think every game we won by 15 or 20 points in the tournament, and then a day later they shut down the tournament. So yeah, and then but then Steve got the Wake Forest job. Good for him. Yeah.
So a 2-month AD stint ended up being 4 years?
About 5. Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
So much for laying around on the couch and playing golf and retirement. Another whole career.
Yeah, it was great. ETSU has been great to me. President Nolan. I say all the time. If you're an athletic director, the reality of it is it's a really good job if you have a really good president who lets you do what you want to or do what you need to do. It's not a good job if you have a president who, and a lot of presidents have big egos, in case you didn't know that. And so if you have one that is thinks they know a whole lot more than they do, then it's not a very good job.
Yeah. It sounds like you didn't run into that.
No, I was fortunate. Gene was pretty good. Gene was good. He's a big fan, big supporter. So that was great. Ed Ackle was great. And the guy at ETSU, I've been blessed to have all presidents who were very supportive and let me run the athletic program, And so, Gene Trani was great. He let me run the athletic program, and I'd tell him, and we'd discuss things, but that was good. That was good.
Well, part of the reason you stayed 20 plus years is because of the presidents.
No question.
Yeah,
no question. Yeah, because I have a lot of associates who aren't quite that lucky. Yeah.
I imagine there's some horror stories that we don't need to talk about tonight. So you have done something that I, as a younger man, would have never contemplated, and I'm not sure I would ever attempt what you did last week.
Yeah.
You did 24 hours straight of free throw shooting.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, when I was a college player, I was a pretty good free throw shooter, I think. I think my senior year I shot about 92%.
Oh, man.
And then I think I forget how many I made in a row during games, 44, 46, something like that. And so my grandson was born on June 15th, 2014, and 2 hours after he was born, the doctors came to my son and his mother and said that, Finnegan, his name was Finnegan needs to have surgery to save his life in the next 24 hours. So, that was pretty, devastating. And then after that, they said he's probably going to have at least 3 subsequent surgeries, maybe as many as 5. So he did, and all the worry, the anxiety, the emotional toll that having a child born with a birth defect and not knowing what their life path is going to be is pretty challenging, and seeing that is difficult. And the one thing that we discovered is that there's no real strong community support for families of a child with a birth defect. Who do you talk to? Where do you go? The doctors and nurses were great. Finn was in intensive care, neonatal intensive care for 20 days. And so going in there and seeing him and seeing these other little kids born, with birth defects and families, and just the worry and fear. And so, Finn's 7 now. So, one of the things I've always wanted to do is to figure out a way to help develop, a community resource for families of children with birth defects or any adverse childhood experience. That's pretty tough. And so what we're going to do, there's something at ETSU. It's part of our College of Medicine, our College of Education, called the Strong Brain Institute, where they do research on a lot of different things. But one of the things I've talked to them about is doing research on children's and families of kids with birth defects, of how to help those folks. And so what I wanted to do, I thought I need to bring attention to the fact that 1 in 33 children are born with a birth defect. There's a child born with a birth defect once every 4.5 minutes. So I said, the one thing I know I can do is I can shoot free throws. So I'm going to shoot free throws for 24 hours and see if I can make 3,300. 3,300 was the goal, because 1 in 33 kids are born with a birth defect. So that was the original goal, to make 3,300. And then some people came out and said, well, I'll give you, it kind of got to be, this is a fundraiser. I'll give you a penny, a nickel, a dime, $1 for every free throw that you make. So that just was more motivation. And then D1 Ticker. Do you know what D1 Ticker is?
I do not.
Well, D1 Ticker is kind of a national, it's a national communication for people in college athletics. It lists, they just aggregate all the stories and then put them into a local place, and they kind of capsulize them, and it's pretty good. Well, the D1 Ticker folks came out, and they had done analytics, and they basically said I couldn't make more than 3,500. So that just gave me more motivation to make them. Plus, people were giving me money for every one that I made. So stayed up, started on Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning, finished it Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning, made 3,956 free throws.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. So up to this point, we've raised over $100,000. So we're going to build this community of support. And the other thing that we're going to do is the one thing Finn started, Finnegan, and so it's called Finnegan's Challenge. So if anybody wants to go to it, it's just, you can go finneganschallenge.org and people can make a donation. But the one thing we found out with Finnegan, with his special need, we worry a little bit about it, because when he's going to first grade, how will the other kids treat him? You know what I mean?
Sure.
How will they make fun of him? Will they exclude him? And so one of the things in the research that we've done is the teachers aren't really taught or prepared how to deal with the peers of kids with special needs. So what we want to do is to develop, educational curricular materials for teachers to help them teach empathy for, those special needs kids' peers, plus the parents of those peers of those children, because so many children learn their attitudes from their parents. So that's one of the things that we want to do. And I think teaching empathy in today's world certainly can't be a bad thing.
It's as important now as it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's what, that's what I've done here in the last week I did it, it was, it was pretty interesting. I didn't know, I thought I could do it. And then, and I had, leading up to it, I had worked at it a little bit. I had kind of a thought. I had shot as many as 800 free throws, in a hour and a half period. And I thought I could keep shooting them, but I wasn't totally sure. So, but it worked out great. We had kind of a neat deal. We, for a half hour, 45 minutes, we stopped and had a celebrity free throw shooting competition. Celebrities. We had, Phil Fulmer and Mike Smith, who had coached the Atlanta Falcons, and Mike Holbert, who was a PGA Tour pro. We had a young man named Carson Peters, who was on The Voice, and just a neat young man. We had the president shoot, city manager, and I can't even think of who else. But it was fun, and brought a lot of attention to what we were trying to do.
Were there celebrities there at 2 a.m. on Friday?
No, not many people were there. It's kind of funny. I could have made more. if I had to do over again, I think I could probably make maybe 400 or 500 more, because the local TV station wanted to do an interview at 6 o'clock in the morning, as they come on at 6. So they wanted to do an interview and then do another at 6:30, one at 6:45. So I didn't start shooting until 8. So I had to go over to the building, at 6 to do that. And so while they were there, if there's a basketball there in this gym, I'm going to shoot it. You know what I mean? So I probably made 150 free throws from 6 to 8 that didn't even count.
Oh, wow.
And then,
so you were over 4,000.
Yeah, I probably was. Yeah. And then from 11:30 to about 3, my kid said, you need to rest. And so I said, okay. Then there's a hotel right across the street. So I went over there and kind of rested for, like 2.5 hours and maybe 3 hours. And somebody was supposed to come back. We're coming back at 3:30 in the morning. Well, the person that was supposed to come back and open the door to the building fell asleep, and they didn't get calling them. And security eventually let us in at 4:15. So I lost 45 minutes of shooting free throws. So, and I was really shooting good after I rested a little bit. So, yeah.
Was anybody keeping track of the misses?
Yeah, I shot 4,914. So whatever that, it's a little over 80%, 81%.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the most I made, I was a little disappointed. I wanted to see how many I could make in a row at any time, you know what I mean? And the most I ever made in a row was 36 in a row. So that was kind of disappointing to me. I was hoping, because one day when I was practicing, just trying to, I'd shoot like 300, 400, 500 a day, not every day, but 2 or 3 times a week. One day I made, I think, 79 in a row. So I thought I could make more than that in a row, but yeah, I was pretty disappointed in that.
I have to ask, what is your free throw routine? Because you do the same thing.
Well, no, I don't. You know what I mean?
Really?
When I was playing, I did. In this, I didn't. I mean, this was just getting it up.
Okay.
I mean, it was kind of funny. Because I'm trying to shoot them pretty quick, so if I was playing, I'd dribble it, twice, and I'd do some things, and make sure my feet are in perfect position. With this, I didn't do that. I mean, a lot of times I just catch it and shoot it, And it was funny. Sometimes I just catch it and shoot it, and it was just, I could hit 8 or 9 or 10 in a row real quick, boom, boom, boom. And then if I'd miss a couple, then I'd kind of start, really kind of refocus on a routine and do what I did to get started again. But once I get started, it was like, just go,
Right.
But yeah, it was interesting.
Have you ever shared this free throw skill of yours at VCU practices over the years?
No. Free throw shooting is, it's so mental,
For sure.
I mean, a lot of coaches don't even practice it, you know what I mean?
This is amazing.
They're so worried about, the mental piece of shooting free throws. Like Kendrick Warren was an awful free throw. I mean, you guys remember Kendrick?
I remember him as a player. I don't remember his free throw shooting.
Yeah, well, he was a horrible free throw shooter.
Yes,
He shot a little over 50%, I think. But he could go in and practice. He could make, 80% every day. But once he got in the game, it was a whole different thing.
It's something about everybody staring at you, and time slows down.
And I think when you start missing them, then it just puts that much more pressure on you.
The rim is getting smaller.
Yeah, and if the coach makes too much of a fuss over it, it just puts more pressure on the guys. Yeah. So a lot of they just say shoot free throws, and there's all kind of techniques. Okay, you got 2 free throws, you got to make them both, or everybody runs. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
put pressure on that.
That's how we did it back when I played.
Yeah. So all those kind of things,
Tell us about your family.
Okay, yeah, my family. I have two kids. My daughter Leslie is she's dean of students at Bon Secours College of Nursing, and Jimmy, my son, he now is pretty much focused totally on what we're doing to raise money for Finnegan's Challenge. So Jim played at Godwin. He played baseball at Godwin. He went to Duke, played baseball there, got an MBA from Arizona State. So he's worked for ARM Software for a number of years, and now is kind of doing this, going out on his own. So that's what he did. And then of course Jim has 2 children. Finnegan, who has kind of been the poster child for Finnegan's challenge. He's 7, and then his sister is Fontaine. She's 5. It was kind of cool up there as we're trying to raise money. Finnegan and Fontaine, they both wanted to do artwork, so they sold their artwork there at ETSU. They made $143 selling artwork.
That's better than lemonade stand.
Yeah, that's right. So
Awesome.
they did pretty good for that, And then my daughter has a son, Jack. He's 16. He goes to Glen Allen. He plays football at Glen Allen. So
Okay.
so doing good.
Awesome.
Good kid. Good kid.
That's great. So the whole family's here.
Yeah.
Sounds like, yeah.
Yeah, so, my wife's here. We wander back and forth to Johnson City. And, it's good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin has a 3 or 4 part question that
Sure.
he tends to end each podcast episode.
Yeah, just get a little insight into you. So Jimmy Fallon is sick tonight. And you, Dr. Sander, have to take over the show. So you get to pick a male guest, a female guest, a musical group, and a comedian to fill out your show tonight. And this could be anyone. It could be dead or alive. It could be you going for big ratings. It could be just you being, this is personally who I want to have on my show. But male guest, female guest, music group, comedian.
Well, male guest. Somebody who I think is entertaining, who I like a lot. I'd get Charles Barkley on because I love Charles.
You're going for ratings.
Yeah, I love Charles. He's good. He's actually kind of helped us a little bit with Finnegan's Challenge. He actually texted me today and said, "Hey," he said, "I needed to have information about Finnegan's Challenge. I'm doing my podcast today. I want to talk about it." So that's cool. I love Charles. Charles used to come up here a lot with Sonny. Because they were close. And Charles is a wonderful person. I tell this story all the time that when we used to do a golf tournament called Charles Barkley Invitational or Celebrity, or I forget what we called it, but he'd come up and we'd bring a bunch of so-called celebrities with him. But one time we had afterwards we'd have like a small live auction type thing, 3 items. One of the times it was LASIK surgery, so we were doing the LASIK surgery, and my wife, she was going to buy this LASIK surgery for our son-in-law, Justin. And so it was like $1,000, $1,200, $1,500. And Charles, we're at the dais, sitting up on the dais, and Charles says to me, does Mary need that surgery? And I said, no, she's buying that for Justin, our son-in-law. And another guy bids $1,500 or $1,700. And Charles goes $5,000, you know what I mean? And so he just kind of wanted to do that for Mary. So, I think that kind of tells you what kind of person he is.
Yes.
He's really, really good guy. So I think he'd be funny, enjoyable, I'd enjoy talking to him. So that's somebody I'd like. A woman, boy, that's a hard one for me. A woman. And just because of the world I'm in, who I like, and I think she's really got a lot going for her. Of course, once again, this is a basketball-related thing, is Debbie Antonelli. I love Debbie. She's a great woman. She does some really good things. I actually have to admit I kind of copied the 24 hours shooting free throws from her. She does something where she'll make 100 free throws an hour for 24 straight hours to raise money and awareness for Special Olympics. So she's very knowledgeable about basketball, really good person. So that's who I would do as a woman. I think she's somebody that could really be an entertaining and do some good stuff. Comedian. I guess I don't even know if he's alive. Rodney Dangerfield. I think Rodney Dangerfield's
Great.
pretty funny.
He's no longer with us, but he's hilarious.
Yeah, he is. Gets no respect. You know what I mean? So I think certainly he's somebody who I think is pretty funny. And then what was the music group?
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of an old guy, so I would probably say Journey, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Journey. I kind of think they're pretty cool. You know what I mean? And,
I agree.
yeah, so I'd love to see those guys.
It's a good show.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
Yeah.
I'd check it out for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome. Dr. Sander, thank you so much for joining us here on Stories from the Center of the Universe. And I really do appreciate you taking the time to drive over here and do this with us.
Oh, I enjoyed it. You know, I'm sure. I don't know if anybody cares about what I got to say, but
There are a lot of people in VCU land that definitely care about what we talked about today.
Yes, sir.
Well, I was really blessed. Had the opportunity to come to VCU and kind of build something from the ground up and feel good about it. Had some incredibly good coaches. I was very blessed. With guys like Paul Costin, Paul Keys, and Tim O'Sullivan, and Denise Schulte Brown, and Beth Cunningham, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some of the folks that I coached with. Matt Ball did a great job for us in golf, and Eva Bard in women's tennis, and just folks that were really, really. Julian Spooner did an incredible job. We'd win the track championship, didn't even have a track. We did that in the Metro numerous times.
That's amazing.
That was always kind of. I almost laugh at that one. I didn't even have a track, but we'd win the track championship.
It doesn't seem possible.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
Well, it's too Richmond guys. We know what you meant to VCU and to the city here. So thanks.
Well,
for all that.
Thanks for giving me a chance to share, some memories.
Yeah, it's good times.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you'd rate and review us. You can find us at scodupodcast.com.